Pretty sure it's the vultures from that nest. And in this morning light, if we eventually, hopefully we'll get over onto Vulture's Nest Road. I've been meaning to have a look at that nest from Vulture's Nest Road with this early morning light to see if we can see the chick. I had noticed this little head pop up when the two adults have been on the nest. What would be nice to see in the afternoon is maybe these adults coming back with food. Now it's interesting to note that vultures are not able to grasp things in their talons, so vultures can't carry food back to the nest. Sorry, Andrew, go again. Okay, copied. Yeah, I'm on Weaver's Nest coming onto telephone now. Thanks, Andrew. Well, there's only one vulture really that can grasp things in its talons, and that, well, to my knowledge, I might be wrong in this, and that is the vulture known as the bearded vulture or the lammergeier. And they are famous for taking things and dropping them, bones, big heavy bones, dropping them from extreme heights to crash down onto rocks, to break open the bones, to get to the marrow and the inside. I'm just going to pause now to say morning to Andrew. Abshid, going down north. Hey.
How are you, Marc?
Hi, fine, and you?
Good,
I haven't seen you for a while, but
yeah.
I guess we were, no, you were on leave.
Yeah, I on leave and then got back and carry on again.
Good.
So, yeah.
There's that big Shambinyari up on Impala Plains. They're slowly making their way down onto Triple M.
Okay, I'm going to check it out.
And if you're at the junction of Rebecca's Road with Philemon's Cut Line, just look off to the left, there's a two makoti there. I'm sure it's the same ones from that nest.
Okay.
Morning all.
Morning.
How are you doing this morning?
Great.
Tough job you guys have, huh?
Job?
Tough job, yeah.
Job?
But you pay us. Actually, you paid me this morning.
No, this is a passion, and this is, yeah, it is fantastic. Oh, good. Nice to know that you know who we are. Well, great. Pardon?
What's the website?
We're the Safari channel on Wild Earth. So it's either safari.tv or wildearth.tv, and you go onto the Safari TV link.
Okay.
And we are broadcasting in 3D.
Wow, 3D.
We are pioneers. This is a 3D rig. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
If we have Brad run through the bush, will you call them?
Only if they were lion. It's boring if it's just here. Well, we must be on our way. Enjoy your morning. I hope maybe I'll find something for you, or Andrew will find something for me.
You radio through, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm on the way to the elephant that Andrew told me about. So, thanks, Put.
That's great. Thanks, Marc.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your day. So, where was I? I don't know. Memory like a sieve. But now there's another vulture. There goes my theory, blown out of the water. Another vulture hanging out. Ooh, interesting. Andrew, come in. Andrew, I can see another makoti here, so maybe it's not the two from the nest. Maybe there's something around. Just keep an eye out. More or less where you told me these in Globe have gone. It's sort of just north of this small pan on Chelophan Road.
Yeah, because
Elephant.
that's where
Happy, thanks. Oh, yeah, I got these indoors, thanks. Wonderful, got elephants. But relatively thick here. And we'll start off with having a look at this bull behind the guarri bush. I'm going to see him very well. Two bulls, another big bull behind him. Feeding on guarri. Not a very palatable species of plant to be feeding on. Very interestingly, you can see the difference between this bull, this curve of his forehead, and he has a cow at the back here with a very angular forehead. We so often talk of the differences in the head shape of the bulls and the cows, and here's almost a perfect example. The difference between the two. Not that it's easily noticeable amongst this thick bush. Let's make our way around this guarri thicket and see if we can get in there. Hear the screech of parrots. Parrots that live around Chelophan, somewhere around here. Elephants, so nice to start a day with elephants. There's a youngster here too. I don't know if what we're going to find. Whether we're going to be able to get through here. I'm on a bit of a game path, so it could be that wide enough to follow. There is a game path that moves through here. And a buffalo in there as well. There seems to be a bit of a gap. A couple of duggar boys as well, hiding in here. Beautiful bull. He's such a long-legged bull, this. Good morning, Squire. Hello, my friend. Very tall. I would probably stand as high as his front legs, his chest. The green bushes behind him now, bush known as a spikethorn, slightly more palatable than the guarri. Some youngsters in amongst the spikethorn that are feeding. Come and say hello to me, young man. Hello, Mr. Ellie. I loved you. Hello. Your nose is running. Very calm bull this morning. He didn't even give us a head shake. He's going to come and have a sniff at us. With his head in the guarri bush in front of us. Are you going to push a tree for me? No, not much point in doing that, is it? No. Trying to intimidate me somewhat by sort of pushing on that tree. Perhaps. Okay. Hello, Lynn in Canada. Asking if the impala is the only mixed feeder amongst the antelope. He's not being very sociable. Lynn, no, not really. Nyala are a mixed feeder. They'll eat grass and leaves. Kudu, number of mixed feeders. We're going to get through to it. I get to see some of the rest of this group. What? You were talking to me 2 minutes ago, now you shout at me. Just wandering through here, carefully, quietly. Just want to come and say hello and show the world how beautiful you are. And I'm telling everybody how relaxed elephants are and how gentle you are. No harm intended. Now he throws his head at me. So that's an indication that he's not 100% happy. And depending on the circumstances, one either, I guess it will dictate what one does when an elephant does that. There are times when it will mean, and I think this comes from just being with elephants, really, over time, that whether you can show them that you don't really know what they're talking about. They get to this point where, okay, these ignorant people, I've thrown my head at them, I've asked them to do things, and they're not listening, so they don't understand my body language, so I'm just going to ignore them from now on. But there are times when an elephant will do that, when it's necessary to either back off or just stop. Looking down into this drainage line off to our left, where the rest, some of the breeding family group is. And I'm thinking that we're going to have to get around from Philemon's Dip and come around the other side of this gully. Not really much of a view from here of some of the individuals down at the bottom in this gully. Not a view at all. They are moving north, which means that they're going to be moving out into an open patch, and we can find our way around there. Oh my, here's a plant I've been looking for. Don't know if you want to swing it off to my right. I'm just going to show you quickly. I put this thorn against the background of my hand so you can see the shape of it. Can you pick that up?
Yeah. Over there again, sorry? You
Well,
take
I can do that.
you take one little bit further away from.
Further away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sunlight. Yeah. They're sharp. I just want to put my hand out to give you a bit of an idea of the shape of them. They're spines. They're actually not thorns. They're very, very sharp. In fact, they're probably sharper than the acacia thorns. And being spines, they're actually modified branches. They actually have leaves coming off of them. But every point they start forming a Y, and then again a Y, and then even the two tips of the actual spine itself forms a Y. And so it's very appropriately named a Y thorn. But it also got another lovely name called a num-num. N-U-M-N-U-M. I get distracted so easily. And it's not in flower yet. There are one or two that are in flower, and there are a number of different species. Flowers, either very tiny, or some of the flowers of the larger, like the scientific name is Carissa bispinosa, bispinosa meaning two-thorned, or two-thorned. And bispinosa, this is the bispinosa. You also get the Carissa edulis, which has got a much bigger flower and obviously a much bigger fruit. One of the most palatable fruits that we will get in the bush. Very, very delicious. And in the larger species of them, one can even make jelly jams. I'm seeing a crimson flowers from a Scotia boerbean up ahead. I know, we've got elephants that I'm wandering around. I'll like to look at. But anyway, I was just going to say that the flowers of this are incredible. The scent of this flower is very similar to that of the gardenias. In fact, the flower itself, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar family. I must check that out. If it is probably family. I don't think so. Oh, the buffalo right here. They didn't mind me getting out and talking about the num-num. Herman, see if you can see anything in this hole as we go by. I should have actually had a look, but I don't really want to disturb these elephant and buffalo by walking around too much. Oh, it's collapsed. We're on the edge of a big termite mound with a nice big burrow that probably was a den once or something. I could teach his nails on a chalkboard. I want to see if we can maybe get down here. Follow these ellies. I'm not sure if we can. It's rather dense. We might have to find our way out and around. I'm not going to get into it. Beautiful area. We don't get to see this area much. What I also wanted to do, there's the most beautiful tree up ahead that's in bloom, with a lot of birds flying around it, known as a tree fuchsia, also known as a boerbean. One of those names that's kind of got mixed language. Boer is farmer, bean, boerbean, farmer bean. I don't know why it's called a boerbean. Try and get out of here. I don't know if you can get how close we can get. It is distant, but we might still get the effect of it. The green and the red. A bunch of birds hopping around there. Mostly starlings, by the looks of things. And another tree orchid. I'm so happy to find another tree orchid. I'm kind of trying to count the different tree orchids, and I don't know if we can. So I'm going to move forward. This tree orchid is stuck in this boer bean, stuck, growing, not stuck there, living there. And the contrast, you can imagine if it were to flower, the contrast between the yellow flowers of the orchid. Can you see it, Herman? I'm not going to get too close to it with the. Not going to get too close to it from this distance because we can't get down into this drainage line. You can live in an area all your life and find things new. I mean, I've been here nearly 2 years and found 2 new orchids within the last, I'd say, week and a bit. And that's a big one. That's a tree orchid that has been there for a long time. And there are a bunch of birds. There are green woodpeckers, there's a black-headed oriole calling, there are a bunch of starlings. There I can see a green bull. You're not going to get close to any of the birds, but the reason why I'm telling you about them is because this tree, or the flower of this tree, produces copious amounts of nectar to attract the birds. It's their sugar fix for the day. And that helps obviously pollinate the tree. I could sit and watch this because I can only imagine the insects that are buzzing around there as well at the moment. I mean, with all of that, you're going to get the most intricate little spiders that are camouflaged, probably even the same color as some of the blooms, the crab spiders. And in the all right, let's move along. Squeeze through narrow gaps to get out of here. Okay. Another thing I want to show you, look at this. Creeper. Interesting thing about creepers. I don't know how close you could get to that, but what I wanted to point out is it is spiraling counterclockwise or anti-clockwise up this buffalo thorn. There goes that vulture that was nearby, starting to fly. Just above the tree line, out of sight. So, southern hemisphere, we have creepers growing counterclockwise. When they use something as a support, the vines and creepers. And in the northern hemisphere, they'll grow clockwise. So anybody in the northern hemisphere, if you have any, please let me know if you find anything growing counterclockwise. It's not impossible. I have found 1 in 100 or even more creepers that'll grow clockwise in the southern hemisphere, but generally speaking, they grow counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. Kind of like the theory about the vortex of a drain, counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. Got to do with the Coriolis effect. Same way that weather moves counterclockwise in the south, opposed to northern hemisphere weather, tornadoes and things that generally move, I think, in a clockwise direction. So we're meeting up with the heads of another family group of elephants, not far from most of the others that are moving around. A lovely lady is next to me here now. Big old girl. Morning, madam. Some youngsters. And we're actually getting closer to this tree. We need to have a better look at this orchid. While you're looking at this lovely, while she's moving off, we'll try and follow her. Tree orchid would have had to have been here for decades and decades. Right. I don't know how we're going to try and find a way through here, because there's a lot of dead trees that's blocking my way to move up to the elephants in that direction. Whoops. Big hole. Okay, while Herman may be focused, I don't know if you can get the camera that high, but I'm just going to, oh, there's a barbet drinking nectar. Excuse me a moment. I'm going to make an attempt at getting down there. It doesn't look too bad. But what I can show you quickly is very interesting. So flowers obviously are being utilized. Oh, I'm getting full of pollen again. Flowers for the ladies. Me and my romantic notions. Look, I can't hold them. They're a little bit waxy. Can you see those? This is the flower of the Scotia brachypetala. Now, scientific names might sound impressive at times, but for a lot of us who enjoy life, and this becomes, for me, it's my passion, and in learning to understand how everything works, this is my drive, is learning how it all fits together. And knowing the scientific name helps me with all of that. Now, Scotia is the genus of the plant. It's named after a botanist by the name of Scott. But it's the brachypetala part that is interesting, because brachypetala means short petals. Brachy meaning short and patella meaning petals. And if you look at the parts of the flower, you can see how the stamens, and here's the stigma, the single stigma, getting pollen again. Here's the single stigma sticking up above all the petals. The petals are relatively short, and in this case, in all of these flowers in my hand, at least one of the petals has been broken off to get to this little cup of nectar at the base here. And this flower produces copious amounts of nectar. And all these birds up there are actually breaking off that petal to get into the nectar. And hopefully somewhere along the line a lot of them will be pollinated. When you see this tree in seed, it's probably barely 10% of these flowers will eventually turn to seed. The other interesting thing that I found while being underneath this tree is that there's an offshoot of this orchid, probably a youngster from this orchid, just growing next to it. Just incredible. But not much of a scent, a lot of insects buzzing around up there. But the birds having a wonderful time. Now the full name is actually weeping bourbein, and if we had had rains already and there was a lot more moisture in the air, this tree would be producing so much nectar that it would actually drip nectar, because the short petals can't, the petals being short and being the shape that they are, can't hold the nectar. So the nectar actually, as it gets produced, starts dripping. Right, I'm going to see if we can get down here. It shouldn't be too bad. Quite a drop for the right wheel as opposed to the left wheel. And some dead sticks. But this is a Land Rover, and excuse the squeaking. There we go. Sometimes necessary to walk first just to see whether you think the wheels will be able to handle the departure or the approach and departure angles. We don't have to go all the way around anymore. We've got elephants, we're down in the bottom, we've got elephants on both banks. So, bit of a toss up, who are we going to look at first? I think probably less intimidating for us to be down below and the elephants to be up above us. I think they're quite happy to have this power of height. Elephant right next to us here, she's getting too thick. We'll have to go to the other group. She's moving away. Okay, and then I'll find a way through here. Okay, thank you. Question from Jean, and just quickly a message to Malusi. And everybody, I know I did post that I would go to the waterhole yesterday and clean the camera, but unfortunately I got held up elsewhere and I only got home at the end of drive. So those plans weren't, I couldn't fulfill that promise. Apologies. That's what I wanted to, I couldn't. Question from Jean. Do we get any gazelles in Juma? No, Jean, we don't have any gazelles at all. Gazelles are open grassland animal, antelope. Oh, there's a little one here. Hopefully she's going to let us come and visit. May we, madam? I'll be gentle, I promise. Quiet and respectful. Up on this little island ahead of us, we're down in the drainage line. I don't know if we're going to maybe get a view of her through a gap this way. She's feeding on new growth on the jackalberry. With three youngsters. And you see her through that gap. Not the greatest, but it's just nice to be in their presence. And there are a couple of youngsters underneath there. Actually 4 youngsters. Probably only now with all this the new leaves on the jackalberry that they'll feed as much as this. Once the jackalberry leaves become mature, they're rather thick and leathery and not very palatable. Getting back to Jean. The drier central regions, northern central regions of South Africa, with the open grasslands, the plains areas, where one would find gazelles. And the only gazelles we have in South Africa are the springbok. You have to go up into East Africa to find the Thompsons and Grant's gazelles. And they're again out on the open Serengeti and Masai Mara plains areas. Now, let's see. I'm going to try and move, now that she seems to have more or less accepted us being here. I'm going to try and move around there's a little tamboti thicket that's blocking our view. Let's see if we can move around it. So this poor jackalberry. Very thick trunk, so it's a very old tree that seems to have been broken down, and this is all new growth from the last few years. And there you go.
Well, so do you want to move or not?
Yeah. Hello, Mr. D. There's even a bit of asparagus fern that she's feeding on. Okay, you're okay. I just want to say hello. Don't mind me. There we go. Go back to feeding. Oh, some beautiful interaction with a very young calf. Probably only a few months old, 6, 8 months old maybe. A little boy that's maybe 4 or 5. And then a young female who's probably about 8, 7 or 8. So, it's almost as though she's blocking them from getting to it, while getting to the tree while she's feeding on it. Using her back legs and her tail to just keep a track of where this youngster is behind her so she doesn't back into him, but also that she knows where he is. Body contact, a lot of body contact amongst them.
One to lawyer is on your right hand side, and she's busy sitting by the tree.
Young female got irritable with that young bull, actually poked him in the butt with her tusk. I think he was standing on the grasses she wanted to eat.
Positive protection. You would just go on the boundary, on the bubble hook boundary, because at the moment it's myself here by the tracking, and Andrew's going to be joining me very shortly. I said, all I was going to do is come with me back to the top. Yeah, no problem, but you can make your way in this direction. Just on the bubble hook side at the moment.
She's surreptitiously smelling us by just instead of raising her trunk high and sniffing, she's sniffing very low down, pointing the trunk in our direction. Oh, there's a branch to break. Okay. A question here from Messia. Quite an extensive question, because Messia is asking, are there any edible or palatable fruits indigenous to South Africa that they probably have never heard of? Messia, yes, numerous, many. The tree I was showing you earlier, the num num, has a very, very tasty berry. This tree that they are feeding on now, these elephants, the jackalberry, it's edible. It's not that palatable. Well, I suppose it is. It's quite nice for humans. It has a bit of a dry taste. They're the marula tree that have a beautiful, very tasty fruit, very high in vitamin C. There are the raisin bush or brandy bush that has a palatable, edible fruit. There's the false marula. In this area alone, there are, we don't have anything that as large as the likes of apples and pears and oranges. But yes, there are a number of trees that provide fruits. You have to just look at the number of different birds and animals, the primates, the birds, all sorts of different animals that depend on the sugars that fruits produce, as well as the reason why trees produce fruits. Fruits are produced so that things will eat them and disperse the seed of the tree. Interesting feeding behavior now. She's taken this branch that she broke and she's actually standing on it to anchor it so that she can strip the leaves while she's holding it down with her foot. What I've also noticed quite interesting is that this youngster just off to her left, the little one, hasn't been feeding on these leaves at all, and I'm wondering if she's purposely not letting him because maybe there's something that his little tummy can't handle with the jackalberry leaves. Also interesting that she's concentrating on only getting the leaves and not so much, even there, she doesn't want the branches. She's stripping all the leaves off of the twigs as opposed to chewing on the twigs themselves. And plants and trees obviously have come up with different methods of dispersal for their seed, and not every single plant will produce a fruit or a berry. Some will produce, like the bush willows, a winged pod that gets blown by the wind. Amazing the diversity of shapes and methods that plants have employed to get their seed spread. But in some cases, or in most cases, it has to be palatable or edible so that it does get taken away from the tree. And if you look at the acacias, the false thorns, a lot of the ones, the legume family, the plants that produce a pod with seeds encased in the pod, you might find that the pod itself is the edible part. That becomes the fruit. And the seed is a very, very hard seed. It is coated in a layer of a membrane, and that membrane is impervious to water until perhaps being passed through the digestive system of an animal, until it has been scarified in some way by not only passing through the digestive system but also being stood on and pressed into the soil. And so that might not be a fruit in the true sense of the word, in terms of being round or whatever shape, but there are some pods that are palatable too. Like pretty much like a bean pod or a snow pea, or snack pea, sugar pea, what would you call them? Snow peas. The flat pods of the acacias. The fleshy part that surrounds the seed itself becomes the palatable part, and there are some, like, although we don't get it here, there's a tree, a wonderful tree, one of the most beautiful trees, called the tamarind. And tamarinds, those seeds are encased in a lovely pulpy, sort of textured filling inside the pod, and that can be turned into a delicious cold drink or added to curries. Used quite widely in India, I believe, the tamarind, to make all sorts of different condiments. Brian, come in. Good morning, Brian. Marc here, Safari TV. Can you confirm that that sighting is on Torchwood and not on Buffalo's of Cutline, Western Gowrie? Copy, thank you. A fire break on Cheetah Cutline.
No, the fire break is Bushel 6
Okay, copied. No, I don't think I'll be able to view it then. We can't get some idea of where that is. Evidently a cheetah and her cubs have just taken down a duiker. Well, she took it down, the cubs didn't. They must have watched it. She's feeding on the duiker. Well, we've got an elephant and her calves feeding on a jackalberry. Less gory. Still a sight to see. Very strange circumstance, this jackalberry that they're feeding on. It's got a relatively large trunk. This tree that is stretching, this dead tree on the ground that is stretching towards the camera, coming to the bottom right hand side of your frame. This is the old tree from a long time ago that must have broken down. Whether it was struck by lightning, could be. I mean, that is charred. Could be charred from a brush fire. It could be charred. I don't think it would be charred from lightning. The way it's burned seems to be more from lightning. From a brush fire. But how it broke down is another story entirely. It was a single trunk to begin with, where it comes out of the ground. You can see it's almost as wide as it's wider than these young elephants' heads. I mean, it's almost as wide as her head. Yet it's only about 10 feet high, 8 to 10 feet high. And it's got all of this recoppicing meaning new growth that has come up over the years. She's feeding on a lot of this regrowth. But just judging by the base of this jackalberry, it's got to be a couple of 100 years old. Oh, look at this little one getting his little new tusks into the ground, and he's also decided, Mum's taking too long, I think I'm just going to lie down at her feet. I'm going to have a little snooze while she's feeding. He's getting bored. I'm not too sure if you can see him too well. You must have seen him lie down. While he's lying down, he's just either his trunk or his foot is touching Mom's foot, just to let her know where he is. And we've got two birds with these elephants. One is a drongo, which we often see with the elephant, and there's also a brown-hooded kingfisher. It's just above her head now as she walks away. The brown-hooded kingfisher up there, also waiting to catch insects. She's decided to move on. The youngsters are taking her lead. That was very special, spending some time with them. Getting a bit bright. I think I'm just going to, before I head off, put my other eyes on. Polarized lenses. Glare. Quite a glare this morning. Very special being able to follow them like this. We're coming through. Let's just stop while this female little youngster comes through. Young lady. But a dead boerbean on my left. Scotia. That we were looking at with the flowers earlier. And a very, very tiny tree orchid at the top of it. Probably a youngster from the previous tree orchid we saw. So, the third tree orchid that I'm adding to my list of new. That brings a total of about 6 tree orchids that I know of now. Now that this young female's come out, they can maybe move forward again. Didn't want to get her caught between us and the drainage line. And I don't want to go further now either, because that little one is now drinking from Mom, but it's hidden behind this youngster, and if this little one would move, we'd see the baby drinking, suckling. A bit of rumbling. stop drinking now. Females. A lot of rumbling. The symphony of bird calls this morning. And it's probably only going to get better as we move into breeding season for birds. Okay. Hello, Susie. Susie's asking a question about termites. Back to the termites. Susie wants to know if termites ever come out of the mound, and if so, under what circumstances, and when, and in what form. This is an extensive answer to this question. Sorry. Depending on what species we're talking about. I mean, some species will not be out and about outside of the mound at all unless, or rather until, conditions are right for them to, what we say, the term we use is releasing the reproductive case, the winged termites. Now, all the termites one gets in a colony except for the queen are pretty much all workers of different castes. Some we call soldiers because they have particularly large heads and pinchers to defend the colony. I'm going to move up a little, Herman. Let's try and keep up with this lot. I can go. I think we need to go maybe this way around. She is moving somewhat. The general direction is towards Gari Dam. We'll eventually come out that way sometime during the day. Matter of us being able to get our vehicle through these gaps. Follow her. Really an easy way through here. Termites. Yeah. Some of them won't. You know, it depends on what species. There's a species of termite known as the harvester termite. That is about the only termite that has pigment, only species that has pigment. It's not pale and beige as most other species because it spends a lot of its time above the ground, and so it has to have a bit harder exoskeleton. And when you look at the chitinous substance that insect skeletons are made of, the exoskeleton, the outer skeleton, one can use a rule of thumb that the darker it is, the harder the skeleton, the harder the shell. And so, living above ground, the harvester termites need to be a little bit hardier and harder than their cousins who live almost a fossorial and underground existence, that have a life that is very strictly governed by temperature and darkness. This is going to be awkward. We're going through some knobthorn that is going to require me to do it very slowly and carefully. Keep hooking on the camera. And the harvester termites don't have a mound. They don't have a solid structure above the ground. They have a network of tunnels underground. What they do is they come out and they harvest grasses. And as soon as we have a hint of rains coming, pretty heavy rains, we're going to see masses of harvester termites. Even where we are now, where there's almost no sign of a termite group colony, and they will chop pieces of grass, particular length, and they'll be very, very busy chopping up pieces of only dried grasses and taking them underground. And you'll find that some individuals within the colony, their job is merely to just chop up grasses and take it to the entrance to the burrow, and other termites will come up from underground and pull all these bits of grasses in. The snouted termite, Trinervitermes, the black mount termite, is different in that its feeding is all done under the cover of darkness inside the tunnels. They don't ever come above ground. They are quite vulnerable when they're exposed to open air and exposed to the world. They don't have biting mouth parts. They just have the snout and their defense is a very sticky acidic substance that they exude that stops ants and other insects from raiding their burrows if there's ever a breach in the burrow or the colony. There's a little steenbok. If he's going to stay there. Morning, young man. Never seen a vehicle here. Guess you thought feeding here away from roads you weren't going to see any of us. He's pretending to be not noticed by standing very, very still. No, he's quite relaxed with us. He's going to go back to browsing. And we seem this elephant has taken us to another family group. But they're all behind bushes, and we're going to have to play it by ear. How are we going to get around here? I don't want to disturb the steenbok. That's the avenue I want to go, because it seems to be closed off to our right. I don't really want to disturb him. So that's the snouted termite, and then you get the sort of the in-betweener, which is the pinnacle mound termite. These pinnacle mound termites, at a certain time of the year when moisture is right and the timing is right for them to release their winged reproductives, the soldiers will crowd the mound in great numbers as this huge wall of defense to let the harmless and vulnerable winged reproductives emerge and fly away. All termite species, all termite colonies have winged reproductives. Let's see if we can follow this elephant now. Steenbok has moved on. I want to get to the eastern side of them because it's so bright. We're not really getting much of a view from this western side. And they are moving through somewhat of thicker bush than before. I know I'm trying to tell you a story about termites, but because we'll have to make a big detour around this termite mound. I'm going to try and get to the western, or rather the eastern side of them, to get a better view, get to see them with the morning light. Hello, little steenbok. Could be the steenbok from Philemon's cut line actually, because he's not even running away. Now he is, because I said that. So I guess to sum it up, the whole termite spiel that I'm giving, to sum it up, 99% of the termites do not come above ground, they do not expose themselves because they're vulnerable, they're highly nutritious, anything and everything eats them. And the only time that they do or are exposed to the air and the outside world is when it's time for breeding. Not breeding, it's time for letting or expanding, or I don't know, how can I put it? Well, it's time for the reproductives to fly away. Basically all the workers are the digestive system of the colony. And at some point the reproductive system has to come into play, and the reproductive system, instead of the digestive system developing in the individuals, the reproductive system develops, and with that come wings, because it's no good having a new colony started right next to the original colony. It's vital that this new colony, or the new individuals that are going to go off and start a new colony or a new termite mound, it's vital that they end up far away from the parent colony, and so nature has given them wings, and it's only a very short period of time that they're given wings. Here we are, I think almost on Twin Dams Road now. Here we are, come all the way through to Twin Dams Road. A lot more of the elephant here, going into the Mawati. And strangely enough, it's remarkable. Once they've flown a particular distance, they actually shed their wings. They have this little shrug and their wings fall off because they no longer need them. They then burrow underground, and then they become the mating pair, the queen, who then produces all the eggs. Start the new colony. So, hello little one. That's backing up. And should I back up too then? I'll back up and see if you're going to come forward. You don't want to play? Not today. Even a younger elephant off to our left. I want to see if we can get to see this very young one. The female we've been watching with her youngsters, one family group, still off to our right. We have managed to find our way to the eastern side of her. This is a youngster from another cow who's just on our left in some very thick stuff. And this little one, quite intrigued with us. A brick of all things in the road. She was playing with. I want to just go forward enough to see the very youngsters in some pretty thick bush. No, can't see that little one anymore. But we might see this other female come out with the youngsters on our right. Oh, I know this other youngster with his big tear in its ear. So young and already got a big V tear. A bit to the right, eh? Oh, it's moving off now. It'll be easily identified for the rest of its life on account of that tear in its ear, a little flap hanging down. Possible that little flap will atrophy and eventually disappear. Might not. We'll know in a few years' time. And deeper in beyond this little one we've just been watching, right behind it, that's that female we were with earlier at the Jackalberry, coming through, meeting up with this group. We heard her rumbling. She was probably in communication with the matriarch of this family group, just getting an idea of where the rest of the group was so that she could follow. We're now on Twin Dams Road, and they're going to be probably heading up Twin Dams, well, up the drainage line, up the Milwaukee, coming out at Gowrie Dam eventually. I'm going to sit here. This car is making her way towards us, and I'm hoping she's going to come out right here. Of course, there's no hurrying an elephant. I'm guessing there are at least 4 small family groups. And all 4 of the matriarchs of these family groups themselves probably related in some way. Here comes one of the mums. And this youngster actually giving way to her. Almost as, yeah, she's disciplining it somehow. Hello, little boy. That was great. Wonderful. I think we should take a little drive down towards Twin Dams. They're in very thick bush around us. We take a drive down towards Twin Dams and then we'll come back this way on our way home and see if they've not moved into more of an open area. We'll go past Chelapan and have a look at things down that way. See you in a bit, everybody. I didn't get a chance to test my theory that the two vultures on Philemon's cut line were the two vultures from the nest, and the theory that was partially debunked by the finding of another lone vulture. We're going to see now. We'll go past the nest and see if there's anyone there, but it's not going to help us because the two could have returned to the nest. The only real test is going to be what we find this afternoon. We'll come back to the area in the afternoon and see if either more vultures have joined or if they've all gone away. That single vulture did fly off. It is warming up now. Thermals will begin to provide warm air currents that will help these birds rise. And there's one of the vultures on the nest up ahead. Bunch of hyena tracks. Let's go round on Vulture's Nest Road. The Twin Dams come back this way. Let's see what we can find. We'll go and have a look at Twin Dams, see if there's anything at the dam, near the dam, on the way to the dam. Can't look at the vulture's nest from this angle because it's looking into the rising sun. Oh, my word. Might have to leave it for the afternoon. I forget how fast time flies when I sit with elephants and talk about flowers and trees and termites. Here I thought we had a lot of time left and we don't. We might just have to, I think we'll be able to get to Twin Dams, have a look and come back this way and say goodbye to the elephants. Leaving Cumbian Glove on Twin Dams Road, just north of Chelapan, open lock. One of the other reasons why I wanted to come past Mumba Road was because there were reports of lion tracks heading west along Mumba Road. And I want to just have a look if they didn't maybe come out somewhere here. Doesn't look like it. Herd of impala that seem to have been drinking already. Henry, come in. Henry, did you say you found a Ngala Mkonzo on Mumba Road heading west this morning? Where did you leave that Mkonzo? Okay, thank you. Bachelor boys, big bachelor group of impala. I'm just going to go past the dam onto Gari Main and then come back again. Elephants have been very busy around the area where there was a lion track this morning. And it'd be interesting to come back and look in this area this afternoon. Try and let's go right around the dam to the other side. After just checking the road, Gari Main. You can see that impala herd, big group of bachelor boys, big males. It's a herd we have seen quite a lot of. In fact, we probably will find that one ram that has a broken horn. Somebody posted a picture of a ram with a broken horn on my page. It came from Karanet in Koro. But that is a different ram that is up at Nkoro. He's got a horn that is broken and completely differently in a different place to the two rams that I know of in this area with broken horns. One's broken very short and one's broken a lot higher. The one at Nkoro is broken in between. And yesterday, it was yesterday morning. We had a young Nyala ram with a damaged horn, either from fighting or horning a bush and getting it stuck and getting it caught. More than likely from fighting. The weight of the animal itself in the heat of a battle, pulling free, breaking the horn. And it will be painful, it will expose nerves initially. Hello boys. Having said that, I'm not seeing a one-horned impala, a 1.5 horned impala. Not yet, at anyway. Just standing around. Are you smelling something? What's up, boys and boys? Boys to men. Youngsters to rams. Not easy. We seem to have the sun in the wrong place all day this morning. Okay, let's go back. I want to get some idea, if I can, where that lion went, so that I know where to begin this afternoon. And hopefully say goodbye to these elephants. Oh, it's going to be a hot one. There's going to be lots of flies today. Sorry, sorry, Pat. I couldn't get the name, and I didn't get what the word is that you're looking for. I only got the origin of a name. Please repeat that for me. Evil Dog. What a name. In chat. It would be nice to know your name. If you send an email, it's much better addressing you what your name is rather than your chat name. But wanting to know the origin of the name Duggar Boys, that when we refer to the old Buffalo Bulls as Duggar Boys. So I'm concentrating on the ground because there were lion tracks coming this way, and if there's nothing here, then he's got to be down in the riverbed somewhere. Hippo tracks. Elephant have been around here. They could have obscured the tracks of the lion, but I'm not seeing any. Well, speak of the devil. Duggar Boys. The origin of the name Duggar Boys. Well, mud is referred to as Duggar. D-A-G-G-A. Or just D-A-G-A, but I think it's more commonly spelled D-A-G-G-A. And Duggar Boys refers to the old buffalo bulls that lie around in the mud, because they get... we had this breeding herd of buffalo this morning, and the breeding herd of buffalo will not stay in one area. They move in these huge circles over vast distances because they need to get all the browse possible, or rather, not browse, all the grazing that they can. And it's no good going over the same area that they've been for grazing. They need to constantly go over new areas. For example, this area hasn't seen a breeding herd of buffalo for some time, and it could actually use a breeding herd. But it's because of this constant movement of breeding herds of buffalo. I'm going to move, Herman, because I want to get back to the Ellies. And once again, we've just got a couple of Duggar Boys lying down, chewing the cud. And they head further down Twin Dams Road towards the dam, towards 3. It was the end, so just try and finish this quickly. The old bulls, when they get old like this, they no longer want to keep up with the herd. They want to find a place where they've got water, they've got some mud to lie in when it gets hot, and they've got some grazing. And one finds on a hot days, especially now going into the summer months, they will be lying around in the mud for almost the whole day. And that is what gives them the name Duggar Boys, because mud is referred to as Duggar. And Malusi can correct me, or Patrick can correct me, whether it's a Zulu term or a Shangaan term. I think it's Zulu. It's a Bantu-based language, both of them. So it is a Bantu-based word. Duggar. I think we'll get back to the Ellies. We'll see. We've got morning drive coming to a close. We're not going to have another tryout presenter for a couple of days, at least not till early next week maybe. We will update you on the progress there after a meeting that we have today. Will be arriving, and we'll be having a meeting to discuss that, and we'll be posting something on the web page and on the blog as well. Until then, we're going to be debating the 3 presenters that have come in as a tryout. Excuse me, young squirrel. What's up? Nothing. Just playing chicken. Squirrel playing chicken. So, I guess time for me to say thank you for joining me. Thanks for the questions that came in this morning. I'll just stop here perhaps. Oh, just heard a big tree snap further up. You're going to get to see the elephants off camera though, and I'll talk to them about coming to Gowrie Dam. My name is Marc. Herman has been on camera. Thank you for joining us this morning. Patrick been sending the questions in from Final Control. And I'll be seeing you at 3 o'clock Central African time for the afternoon drive. So bye everybody. Sleep well if you're going to bed.